Super Mario Kart, released in 1992, became a phenomenon that I think everyone knows about. Mario Kart is personally one of my favorite franchises, and sometimes I think I like it even more than the regular Mario franchise. And sales-wise, it is a juggernaut, being one of the best-selling Nintendo franchises next to Pokemon, and even outselling Mario most of the time. So of course, Sega wanted to make their own version of Super Mario Kart with Sonic, because you know what? Sonic in a racing game makes sense. Sonic's all about going fast, so why not have a game where he plays a new cast of Sonic characters, the same way that Mario did in his Super Nintendo title. Now, the odd thing is that, for some reason, instead of making it on the Sega Genesis, they put it on the Sega Game Gear. Unfortunately, there's barely any information on Sonic Drift. The most notable thing about the game is that it's a Japanese exclusive game. We've seen that before, but not usually actually fully released games like this game. It had a sequel that was released internationally, but for some reason the first one was never released. And to say the least, it's not really anything noteworthy. One, Sonic's in a car, which is an odd decision. There's nothing, I guess, since every other racing game's in a car, it kind of makes sense. But seeing as Sonic is technically would be faster than a car, and being in a car is kind of goofy. And everything else about the game feels kind of cheap and lazy. In fact, magazines at the time did not think this game was very worth playing. They said the game was almost borderline unplayable, which is not the best thing you can get for your game. And overall, the gameplay is incredibly simplistic. There's not a whole lot to do here. You speed up, you can brake, and you can turn left and right. There is no drifting. You have to let go of the brake when you're turning, which is most of the game. There is items, of course, but overall, nothing too exciting, and only 4 playable characters. There's Sonic, who has a red card known as the Cyclone, and you know what? The characters have biographies, so I want to read them for you. Sonic loves novel things, rides the insanely fast machine. Just like Sonic, its dashing speed is amazing. It's not so good at cornering, but it'll get through by drifting. You can't... Yeah, the game's called Sonic Drift. There is really no drifting unless you count turning as drifting, but you know how drifting works in most games? There is nothing about drifting, so it's kind of a lie. That's not true. That's a lie. Of course, Tails is playable, and his machine here is called the MTP-01 Whirlwind. In case you're running an MTP, is Miles Tails per hour, in case you couldn't tell. And his biography says, "This new car was handmade by Tails for this race. It is a well-balanced machine with excellent cornering." As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any difference between the characters at all. Play-wise, they all play exactly the same, so there's not much going in this game. So anything that says all this character does has this mechanic, there's lying. So once again, that's not true. That's a lie. Dr. Eggman. This is the first time we actually play as the big old egghead, technically speaking, since Dr. Box being B Machine, we played against him, not as him, as you know. So the first time we get to play as the Mad Doctor himself. And his thing here, even though it looks like a generic Eggmobile, is called the Egg Typhoon. For some reason, it's the Eggmobile. Why is it called the Egg Typhoon? Whatever. Even it says in the biography, the Eggman Mobile. Okay, so it's modified. Okay, whatever. The Eggman Mobile was modified for racing. Designed for maximum speed and is ready to take on Sonic and the others. Maybe its slow acceleration is due to the egg temper mines it carries. Okay, I don't know what that means, because none of the enemies can drop items, so I don't know how that's about. And the next character is Amy, who is her second appearance so far, and also her first playable appearance, and unfortunately is in Sonic Drift, and she has an umbrella that has Sonic Drift on it. Why? I have no idea. Alright, Amy, and that's her car, who has a face that's not creepy at all, and the car with a face is called Breeze, whatever that means. Breeze is a strange car of a mind of his own. He is not very fast, but his cornering and acceleration are very good. He's a very gentle guy. I like how it doesn't even describe Amy, it just describes the fucking car. Oh, in case you're wondering, there's barely any story either. Basically, Eggman's like, I'm going to race and win. Sonic's like, well, I can beat you in a car. And Tails like, hey, I can too. And Amy's like, yeah, me too. That's the story. That's it. That's all you get. There's any cutscenes, but overall, they are fun. They really have not much to do with any story-wise whatsoever. So yeah, most of the gameplay is pretty basic and generic. And also, since kart racers are mostly known for, multiplayer, even the Super Nintendo one was made for the second player. That's the whole reason the Mario Kart was even created as a multiplayer-based kart racing game, since F-Zero wasn't. But no, Sonic Drift is on a Game Gear, meaning that you have to have a connector in order to play against another player, which is not very common. There's a reason why the first portable Mario Kart game was not on the Game Boy, it was on the Game Boy Advance, because even then, it's hard to actually get another person with a link cable. But then again, most people had Game Boys. Not everybody had a Game Gear, so even in Japan especially, because Sega was not really popular until they made the Saturn in Japan, oddly enough. So this was just an awful idea in general. One, to make it on a handheld device like the Game Gear, with having half the screen, which is already small, being cut up for a map. Overall, it was just a bad idea in general, and just having Sonic riding a car is just bad. And yeah, in the future, we would see Sonic driving a car again, but at least with those games, they are way better controlled, unlike Sonic Drift, which isn't. Overall, I think an actual Sonic racing game that has Sonic on foot would be great. In fact, there actually is a Sonic racing game on foot that does exist, and I actually quite like it a bit, even though some people don't like it as much as I do. Even in the future, we would get more kart racing games with Sonic in a car that's similar to Mario Kart. I overall think they always kind of miss something, and Sonic Drift's kind of the start of all of that. Speaking of kart racers, don't they usually have items? Well, yeah, there's rings, which, they just activate your special power when the player gets hit by obstacles or opponent special power. They lose all their rings. They don't only do a whole lot there. I don't even know what that means. And we get a spring, and it just bounces you in the air. I'm not sure what that does. Then we get a red monitor, which gives you a small burst speed, and the blue one, which makes you invincible, and it plays the Toot Toot Sonic Warrior theme, so we'll be hearing that a lot. Overall, you don't see a lot of these items, and overall, they're not very useful. Anyway, you'll start the game and have to choose between all these stuff. Options doesn't really do much for you. Versus is only if you have a plugged-in multiplayer, which no one's going to be playing this game with you. Free one just lets you play the courses by itself. And you get an option of choosing 3 different courses: green, yellow, and red. Basically, whatever you choose just has a different layout for each courses. So each course is definitely different, but they all basically play the same, so it's not really noteworthy. And all the courses are based off levels from Sonic 1, oddly enough. Every single one. So we got your basic one, we got Green Hill Zone, and I would say any differences, but really there's nothing. There's basically turning, and on sometimes your turns you might hit a palm tree or something. Just how the backgrounds change in the music. That's about it. So, yeah, all of them from Sonic 1 are here. So we have Green Hill Zone, like I said. There's Marble Zone, Spring Yard Zone, Labyrinth Zone, which luckily you don't have to go underwater, thank goodness. Starlight Zone. So essentially there's 3 acts for each of them, I guess makes sense, but each of the Chaos GP, the green, yellow, and red. Red being harder, I guess, but overall the gameplay feels mostly the same, so there's nothing really noteworthy to even really talk about. Just turn for the tight corners, each level mostly will feel the same, and you'll just have a different background. So unlike a Mario Kart where there's something to talk about, here, not really, because the gameplay is so basic that it's really not even noteworthy to talk about the different variations. Every character gets their own little ending, which is pretty cool. Sonic just kind of drives around in his ending. Nothing really noteworthy here. In fact, there's a lot of lag. And then he gives us the thumbs up. Actually, probably the lamest one here, believe it or not. Tails is like, wow, I can't believe I won, as he gets slowly out of his car there as Eggman and Sonic watch on. They also reuse sprites from the 16-bit game, which was kind of interesting. He jumps in the air and be like, yeah, I won, mother effers. And that's Tails' ending. Amy gets really excited when she wins, and her car creepily stares at her. And of course, she sees hearts when she sees her lover, Sonic, who wants nothing to do with her. Like, I don't care, you won the race. I'm still not gonna touch you. And that's Amy's ending. Eggman's ending has him laughing at Sonic, basically, which is pretty great. This is easily the best one. He laughs. He makes fun of Sonic, like, you suck. I beat you. Take that. And it ends with Sonic chasing after him, which is pretty funny. Sonic's a sore loser, if you couldn't tell. There's also a little bonus thing here, being Sonic Drift 16-bit, made by the same guy who made Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit. And I had to notice this one because I thought it's pretty neat. It's basically a duo of both the games, essentially if they were made properly on the actual console, because, that's the easiest way to play multiplayer. And overall, it looks pretty neat, but still in development. But already, it's better than Sonic Direct 1. And 2, for that matter. Sonic Drift is not a very expensive game loose. I don't count a lot of these complete prices for older games because their boxes are usually pretty hard to find because of the fact they came in boxes for the most part. So while complete price seems high, $5 for a loose game, especially for one that was only released in Japan. I guess it makes sense since some Japanese games are pretty cheap, but hey, this is a Sonic game, and Sonic collectors are crazy and want every game, like me. I would like to have this game, even if it isn't that great of a game. I also don't think the Game Gear is region locked. Overall, it's not really worth buying this game because you gotta import it, and it's also not that great. I don't recommend buying this game at all. Hey, well, it's on Sonic Adventure DX. I'd mentioned this in every one of my videos, so if you haven't seen them, you probably don't know this, but let me say it again for those who haven't seen it. Sonic Adventure DX has the ability to unlock all the gamer games through every 50 elements you collect in the game, and Sonic Drift is being one of them. If you like Sonic Adventure DX and want to beat 100% of the game to get all the Game Gear games, there you go, you have it. Not the best way to do it, but you can do it this way. On Sega Mega Collection Plus, when I say Sega, Sonic Mega Collection Plus, through the Xbox and PS2 version, you can get Sonic Drift. Yeah, that's about it. So, yeah, if you want Sonic Drift, there you go. I don't really recommend buying it for that game. I do recommend buying Sonic Mega Collection or Mega Collection Plus because I think it's a good game. I don't recommend it for Sonic Drift because Sonic Drift sucks. Hey, look, it's Sonic Origins again. Yeah, we're starting down with Sonic Origins talk. And yeah, like I said, Sonic Origins Plus has all the Game Gear games. So there you go.
Why the hell am I in a car? And that's why Sonic Drift sucks.
I agree with that old Sonic short that I saw as a kid. Sonic Drift does suck. It's not bad, but at the same time, it gives so little that it's not even worth noting. It has a little bit of charm, but overall, I think it's an F tier game overall because it has so much missed potential. And Sonic Drift 2 basically did a lot of things that Sonic Drift 1 should have done from the get-go. I mean, the game was not even, they didn't bother releasing it in North America or Europe for that matter. They obviously knew what this type of game was. It feels cheap, it feels lazy, and overall, it's really not worth remembering. It's Sonic's first racing game, and overall, not a very good one. And that's all I gotta say about Sonic Drift. See ya from the next game.